What's going on, guys? Let me know if the audio is okay. Already it looks a little hot on my end. Let me play with some knobs and faders and stuff. Make sure it's okay. I'm in a little bit of rough shape, you guys know, but we're gonna do this and we're gonna do some cool stuff. Why not? We always do cool stuff to some degree, right? Let me know if my audio is okay for you guys, and we'll get going in a minute. In fact, I might even just shut off this AC. Nah, I'll leave the AC on. If you guys don't mind the AC on, let me know, because it's going to get hot in here one way or another. All right. All right, let's get into this. Let's do this. Bingo. What's going on, everyone? Welcome, welcome, welcome. Sean, Rick, Kurt, Brian, Zach. Audio seems okay. Awesome. That's always a good start, right? Baseline. Our standards are just good audio, right? Yeah, so I can stand. I'm not moving quick. I'm not moving heavy stuff easily. So it's going to be a little bit of a, you know, a little bit of a tender stream this time, you know. However, we're in the studio this time, so let's try to do something a little more tactile than what I've been doing the last two streams, which was kind of like talking, which, you know, we can do, but if I can do something more hands-on, let's do that. I do have a bunch of questions in my question stickers post on Instagram, so we'll go into that real quick before we get going. I just want to let you guys, 1 second, guys, sorry. Whenever I get a text from certain people, I'm like, while I'm live, I'm like, oh no, what isn't right and who's going where and how do we, okay. So Thursday the 28th, Daniel Norton is back here live. He's going to be doing, I think, what's it called? Best lens for portraits. So that's pretty good. You guys asked that question a lot. Of course, there is a lot more to say than just this lens. We're going to walk you through the way you should think about lens selection, what different focal lengths and things to consider, characteristics of glass, stuff like that. So that is August 28th. That's on the main channel. Actually, is this? No, I'm not on the main channel. That just shows you where my head's at right now. Actually, can I show you this stream? Because that would be awesome if I could. Let me see. How'd the ankle handle all of the events this weekend? It's for those of you who don't know, I sprained my ankle in 2 places. And that's why the last 2 streams have been from home, because I just couldn't stand on my ankle long enough, let alone get to this event space properly. But we had the wedding workshop, and the wedding workshop went really, really well for those of you who attended. You'll see some content coming out of that shortly. Obviously, we got some editing and stuff to do. But yeah, man, the muscles in my leg are getting tired because I haven't been used in a couple weeks. My ankle's super tight. Certain angles are just a nightmare for pain. But let's take a look at this perfect portrait lens with Daniel Norton on the 28th. Make sure you guys pop in that chat. If you can't make it here, I'll put it in the chat right now. Bada bing, boom. All right. Can you guys hear the air conditioner? Do you want me to shut it off? Is it annoying to you guys? Let me know. I can sacrifice the air conditioner if the audio is a problem right now. It sounds really loud to me right now. I also haven't been here in a minute. So the other thing I wanted to let you guys know is on Wednesday on the main channel, Coffee Creators comes back. And I got Nancy Borowick, who is a really well-known photographer worldwide. I'm talking about New York Times, stuff like that. She's done very, very in-depth human stories, like really, really impactful images with very, very, I keep on saying human stories. You'll get what I'm talking about when we get into it, but you can go to the adorama.com/events page and see her long list of, like you're looking at it right now, honestly. So she will be here Wednesday, 11 a.m. So this week's streams right now, Wednesday, 11 a.m., Coffee Creators. Thursday, Daniel Norton, 5 p.m., right? And so you got some podcasts, you got some inspiration stuff, and you've got some technical, okay? And that's pretty much what we're going to do for this week. So I just want to give you guys, as always, I want to give you guys the best heads up I can for, what events are coming up and what you can dial into. Okay, so you can't hear the AC? Great. Thanks. Yeah, this t-shirt, if you guys don't know, I try to support all the channels that I'm a personal fan of. This is Heavy Spoilers, one of the best breakdowns of films of all time. I love this guy. I love Paul. Watch his video breaking down The Shining. it'll change your life for the way you look at certain cinema if you're already not a video, like a movie type guy, right? Really, really good in-depth stuff. He reads the books inside and out, and he's hilarious. I think he's got a really good sense of humor for what's going on. So that's heavy spoilers if you get a chance. He's also basically one-on-one with Screen Crush. We had Ryan Arian here from Screen Crush on Coffee with Creators. So if you're in that world, you know, with being just a film nerd, what's up? Curious to hear your breakdown of Comic-Con, of Anime Con compared to Comic-Con and your experience this weekend. Okay, so one, I went to Anime NYC for a few hours. I did not make it far. I went around the floor maybe once or twice, and then I was like, I gotta tap out. My ankles had it. I will say, one, the anime kids are a tight culture. You know, it's one fandom as opposed to Comic-Con, which has like pro wrestling, horror, DC, Marvel, like indie comics, like everything to be basically a fandom is at Comic-Con. So it's a little more segmented. Anime NYC has more of a vibe to it that you're all in the same culture and into the same things. It's almost like we're all into metal, but only you're into these bands and I'm into these bands, but it's still all metal. That's kind of what the feeling was. As far as the photographers go, I will say there was a lot more, I guess, international photographers, people that come from all over the world to shoot there, and their setups are just nuts. I couldn't tell you what their setups are actually doing. It just seemed like a lot of overkill in my opinion in some things, but for all I know, that photographer just needed that one thing, like that little bit of warm fill over here, or this rim light for that shot, or a lot of times a setup will look overwhelming, like there's 12 lights, but what you don't know is they're cycling them. So let's say I have 3 looks in one setup. That could be 6 to 8 to 10 lights, but every setup is a different channel. So Daniel does a demo on this that's awesome. So let's say we did a key light. By the way, guys, nobody says hi to Quinn. You're all rude. You should all feel horrible. I don't know who raised you guys. But let's say I put a key light on Quinn over here and an underneath fill, and it's a bit of a butterfly light, and that's channel 1. But then let's say I have 2 rim lights coming from the side. I wanted her silhouetted, but just really shaped out. That could be channel 2. So from channel 1 to channel 2, I have 2 completely different shots. And then a third look could be anything I want, something with gels on the background, and then it totally changes the environment. So if you have a lot of lights set up, they're not all in play until you go to that channel, and that's what we call like cycling. So it's an easy way to do a lot of different looks in the same setup in a short amount of time. So it's good for things like high-end client, not high-end clientele, but high-profile clientele. So they don't have a lot of time. You don't have, but you know what clientele you're dealing with. So for example, if I was dealing with athletes and they're not there on a red carpet looking beautiful, they're in their uniforms, they're sweaty, they're whatever. You might do something that makes them look good, then something that's a little more graphic, something that's dynamic, then something that just looks totally off the wall, all in a cycle. And so you're shooting channel 1, bang, 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 bang. Channel 2, bang, 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 bang. Channel 3, bang, 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 bang. And so in the span of 10 minutes, you're getting 3 completely different looks with complete sets being shot for each look. And that's what cycling is. There was a Pocket Wizard remote years ago that actually had that as a function. I'm trying to remember what the name of that function was, but the name of the device was the Pocket Wizard Multimax. I still have a bunch of those. Unfortunately, the original ones had problems with the screens dying over time. So when you find them used, it's kind of like, is it the one that has the better screen or not? You know, so you got to watch that. But, you know, hope that made some sense. But I mean, there were some setups at Anime Con that I'm just looking at, like, what is the point of that light? And they're in like the tightest, smallest spots when they had room. And I'm like, what is going on? It was definitely less congested. It wasn't the entire Javits Center. So the feel of it felt great because I could breathe and I could get some movement and I could move around. But I'm also not an anime guy. I respect it. I never got into it because all the art style looks the same to me, and a lot of what I'm into is based on art style. And I bet you if I gave it a chance, I'd be into it or whatever. But there's so much, wouldn't even know where to start. And I'm already on too many nerd rabbit holes as it is. But I respect the dedication. Definitely cool culture, cool community. And yeah, so Anime Con was cool. Going to Fanboy Con next month, definitely bringing my camera. Wait, do you mean Gary Hughes? By the way, Gary Hughes, everyone, if you're not following his channel, you should be. Gary Hughes, are you talking about the actual Comic-Con? You're coming to my hood for Comic-Con? Where I'm going to be covering the show for my channel, so that'll be good. No air conditioning problems. Okay, so the mirror was stuck, needed a beating and a battery good as new. Wait, what am I talking? What are we talking about? I just got a 35mm camera working I got for 40 bucks. Congratulations. That's always a good feeling, right? The one thing about old cameras that people don't realize is that they might mechanically work, but the cells inside of the light meter might be dead, and that means you have no light meter inside the camera. You have a couple options there. One, you can get it serviced if there's parts available and you have a repair center near you. Phototech is here in Manhattan. They've seen everything under the sun. Or the other one, which I think is like probably the easiest and probably the most versatile, advantageous way to fix it, which is get a shoe-mounted light meter. Voigtlander makes a really good one. They're about $200, give or take. They go into your shoe and they give you a readout. And then as you change your settings, you change the settings on top of it that you're at. Or actually what you do is you set it to on top of there to the settings give you a proper exposure. And then you just translate those settings over into the camera. They're awesome. I have two of them that I have not seen in probably 15 years, and I wish I knew where I left them. They are somewhere in the studio or in a backpack or in some storage facility somewhere. I don't know. I definitely have to find those though, for sure. Both my cameras have dead meters. So look for a shoe-mounted light meter, okay? Probably your best bet. And that means any camera then has a light meter. You just take it off and put it on that one. I had the Voigtlander ones. I'm not sure who's making them anymore. I'm a little out of that game a little bit, so do some research on that. If Daniel was in the chat, he would give me like 4 brands that make them. He's like the king of knowing these quirky accessories. I don't know what's going on with him. Wow, everybody's texting me now. Awesome, this is great. Wonder what's going on. Don't want to know. Okay, so I have questions in the question sticker that I want to grab, and I'm going to start with those, and then we'll go into what you guys. If you guys have any questions, please. That's what these streams are for. If you're new here, hit subscribe. If you're new here, let me know, right? I'd love to know who's discovering this channel. We're at 12,500. I want to get to 100,000. We're almost there, right? We're almost there. We're just trickling them in a little bit. Don't forget, there's 2 years of free classes on this channel. 2 years. And a massive roster of legendary photographers and instructors that you should know about, that you're basically getting tips for free, all right? I've just been learning the rules and praying. Okay. Okay. Well, do yourself a favor. Instead of praying for every shot, make notes of what every frame setting that you are at, so you have understanding what happened in that frame when you get your film developed. A million years ago, I threw them all out, and I probably kind of regret it, but I had handwritten notes for probably 10 years of film shoots that I did where I was trying things and trying to figure things out, especially when I was doing multiple strobes with Vivitar 283 and 285 speed lights on the street. I was documenting how far the strobes were, what my settings were at, what the conditions were, the frame number. So when I'm looking at it, it was like, oh, that. It wasn't until later on that we had cameras out there that actually put your settings in between the frames. If you saw my streams, the last 2 streams on this show, I had a frame that I made out of a print that I had on my wall. And if you look on the side, probably on the left side of the screen, it said a 60th of a second at 5.6. It's telling you what your settings were, which is pretty cool. But it doesn't tell you things like the conditions or the lighting settings and stuff like that. So, all right, kind of rambling here. Oh, you have a fanboy con in Orlando. Well, that's cool. I'm sure you'll see some cool stuff there, Gary. Make sure you guys are following Gary. Check out Headshot Tools. It's pretty amazing, especially if you do high volume work of any kind, not just headshots. All right. Okay, let's go to I keep picking up my phone to say I'm going to go to the question sticker, and I never do. All right. By the way, how is everybody? Are you guys all right? You know, I feel like we haven't done anything in a while, and that's because I've been injured. I've been on the injured list for too long. The last thing we did in this event space was this, where we shot through, I think we were shooting through packing foam, and then I gelled the back of it, and we showed how the exposure can change a lot of what's happening color-wise when you're using a gel in that manner, you know? So let's Let's see what's going on. 45 of you guys, only 16 likes. Am I doing that bad? Am I doing that bad? I feel like I'm gonna have to sit at some point. Okay. What are we doing? Okay, the first question I got was, oh, Joe McNally, I hate you. Joe McNally's asked me, what's your favorite f-stop? If anybody knows, this is like a question you get from people who aren't sure what to ask you and aren't sure, that have a little ways to go about what they're learning, you know? There's no such thing as like a favorite f-stop. You might have a lens that you feel might be sharper or have a certain characteristic at a certain f-stop. So for example, on my 4x5, I know that a stop and a half in on that lens is the sharpest that lens looks to me personally. Wide open, not really. Even closed down, not really, because it gets to a point where closing down an aperture creates diminishing returns. And it's something called diffraction. So that's why higher res cameras, the higher the resolution camera, the less you can close down before you start losing detail. I'm not even making this up. So if you're looking at like, let's say somewhere in 40 to 50 megapixels, after about f8, you're gonna start losing detail. So shooting at f11 while you have the resolution, because the light is diffracting because it's going through such a small opening of a tight aperture, it actually starts losing detail by the way it's spreading along the pixels. Do yourself a favor, do some quick research on that if you want to learn about it. It's not like it's detrimental, but if you're someone that's looking for detail and for some reason it's not there, that's why people that go, one of the things that I get, I don't know what's going on. It's like some kind of new trend or whatever for younger kids, whatever, but they're all closing down as hard as they can while they're in the studio because they want these sun star bursts from their flashes. But when you're doing that, you're taking down the resolution that you're shooting at. If you're shooting at 24, megapixels or lower, you probably got an easier chance at retaining some detail, but you're also not shooting as much detail as you would at 45, right? So there's that. And then there comes in the whole idea of sensor size and pixel pitch and all that. And we can go down this rabbit hole forever, but that's the reality of it, all right? Yeah, so no. So 5.6 is usually the sweet spot, right? No. During film, anything with a mirror in it, DSLR, film, whatever, they would always tell you a stop or two in from either side will yield you a sharper image than you would if you were all the way wide or all the way closed. It's really kind of not the case in mirrorless land anymore. We're talking about a different distance to sensor. We're talking about not focusing off of a mirror, but calibrated straight to the sensor. It's a whole different thing. So not really, all right? It's not that there's no usual sweet spot, I'll say, except for maybe closing down one stop past open. Maybe. Again, this is a wild card. Depends on the glass, depends on how many elements, depends on the coatings, depends on so many things, When does diffraction start? Is it different for every lens? It's not just the lens, it's the resolution because, okay, so let's say this package gels, I don't want to use that. Let me use, okay. So let's say this right here is a sensor. What's easier to see, this, right? Let's say this is a sensor. If I'm shooting at 24 megapixels on full frame, or if I'm shooting 24 megapixels, if it existed on medium format, the pixel pitch would be different, meaning how big each pixel is width and height-wise, right? So ideally, when you have larger sensors, you have a larger pixel pitch depending on the resolution. Obviously, if it's 100 megapixels, it gets relative to a smaller sensor being low resolution as far as pixel pitch goes, but either way, so let's say it's divided in a grid, right? Well, when the light hits it, it's either projecting photons onto a pixel or between pixels because they're bigger than the two pixels. And when you start doing things like that, that's when you start seeing difference in your detail. Should you be cropping? Should you be zooming in and things like that, okay? And don't forget, like a lot of people, this is going to be a rabbit hole. You see what happens? Joe McNally trolls me in my questions and it becomes a rabbit hole. Here's where we are, everybody. So one of the things that's a misconception about pixel pitch, meaning like the pixel size basically, is that bigger pixels catch more light, kind of. They capture more light. The reality is that while they have a larger surface area, they're still the same depth. So if you think about pixels and pixel pitch like trays of water, this tray might be smaller than this tray, but they're both the same depth. It's just a matter of filling up to the same depth, you know? Gosh, this is gonna go so far. Oh, Joe, I hate you so much. There's so many good videos that deep dive into pixel pitch and sensor resolution and stuff, and I don't want to give you guys the cliff notes on it and miss the details that you might really need. So I'm going to urge you guys to do some homework after this one and do some research about diffraction and pixel pitch. Okay, those two things will have you learn will help you learn a lot about what's actually happening with the physics of your equipment. And physics are physics, kids. You know what I'm saying? Man, Joe, I'm gonna call Joe after this. Joe. Okay. All right, let me go into, hold on. Where's the questions? Can I get off of that question first of all? Is that enough for you guys? Because it's all relative. Like resolution is how many pixels are on that sensor, but how big is that sensor determines how big or small those pixels are. If a sensor gets bigger, you can shrink down those pixels a little more and add more pixels, bringing up the resolution. But if I take a medium format sensor of a certain resolution and cut it into a full frame sensor, that full frame sensor might be the same pixel pitch at like I don't know, like a 60 megapixel full frame. This is not fact, but I'm just making examples here. A 60 megapixel full frame sensor might be the same pixel pitch as a 150 megapixel medium format, because that's how the sizing ratios out, you know? There's so much that goes into it. And man, damn it, Joe. I hate leaving things with like more stuff to explain. If you can't tell, this is why we end up in all this quicksand and rabbit holes on these streams. I just do yourselves a favor and please research pixel pitch and diffraction of light, okay? And if you want, but do it based on sensor resolution. Otherwise, you're gonna get like all sorts of science stuff. Believe it or not, if you guys didn't know, I have an associate of science of light. I have a degree in science of light, which is kind of nuts. I don't know how that ended up, but that's what happened. Okay, let me go to the question sticker. Okay, Cheryl, is Cheryl in the chat? Because you got a few questions in here apparently. Cheryl's asking if a light meter is a must-have, what features should I look for? They are money. So yeah, do I have a light meter? I usually do have a light meter hanging around here. Light meters are an investment, but they're an investment you make once, you know, unless you're looking for certain features, which is a great question, right? A great question to ask yourself is, where will I be in my photography career or hobby or whatever, and what will I need for my tool to do in going forward? So this is probably the most basic light meter you're going to find that's not trivial, okay? This is a Sekonic L308XU. I'll put that in the chat. This will give you constant light. This will give you strobe. This will give you corded. This will give you non-corded. But what it won't give you is things like flash duration or percentage of ambient light to strobe, which I'll go into in a second. Let me just put this light meter in the chat really quick. However, this is like $200 and change, right? Let me go Sekonic. And Sekonic is the brand. Like, don't sleep on that. Okay, so if we go here, so they're $240 now, right? And you could have this for your whole career. I'll put this in the chat, Control V, bada bing. You guys can see that there. So you will get things like the maximum shutter speed, the on both sides, like the slowest it'll go versus the fastest it'll go. So here it has, so this will go to 8,000th of a second to 60 seconds. But if you're someone that's shooting at higher shutter speeds with newer cameras, like 64,000th of a second, this might be a little bit too basic for you. However, if you're just trying to get a reading and you can do the math in your head to go one more stop one way or another, it's not that big of a deal. Because after this, what you go into is the the 858 is what me and Daniel use. I'll go into that in a second, but this one, and then we'll pull out the, where is it? This one. Okay, so when you go into something like this, what you end up getting is a lot more tools. It is touchscreen, right? But having things, well, this shows shutter angle for video, which is useful if you're shooting video. But this one, look, you see how it has a percentage here? That percentage, does it have a cleaner? Nah, it doesn't have a cleaner one. Okay. That percentage right there shows me how much of my exposure is my strobe and how much of the exposure is the ambient. So what does this mean? Okay, I'm so glad you guys asked. When you fire a strobe and you have a light meter saying it's 50%, that is a really even fill light. If I fire the strobe and I get a light meter reading, it says 90%, that tells me it's going to look way more dramatic. That means that 90% of the exposure is my strobe, 10% is ambient. So what does that mean? It means we've canceled out so much of the ambient light, the way it looks to your eye isn't going to be the way it's going to look. Only your strobe is really going to make a difference. The higher the percentage is strobe, the less the ambient is in effect. The higher the percentage of the strobe, the more dramatic it's going to look, right? The less that it's a fill light. When you're out there in the sun, and you want your strobe to kind of just feel like it's filling in, but you want the feel of the shiny sun that's out there, you're not looking for 90% on that light meter. You're looking for closer to 50%. You know? So while it is, they are money, they still make total sense, because if you're talking about, look at this, it's less than $400, right? That means that you are investing less than $400 into a tool that will go with you no matter what camera you use, what style photography you shoot. You know, it'll give you more understanding of what your light's doing. You'll be able to reset setups that you do testing on. I mean, Ab Cisse lives on light meters. Gavin Hoey lives on light meters. Chris Knight, light meter, you know? And if you watched the, if you guys watched, actually, I wonder if you can see it. Let me see if I can pull this up really quick. And then I'll go into the other light meter. Oh, and flash duration is a big deal as well. So if you're someone that's trying to see what the flash duration is to freeze moving subjects, your light meter will tell you if you're going to be getting some blur or not. If you understand that, hey, I'm going to need somewhere around 3,000th of a second of my flash duration to freeze this. Well, if it's telling you it's only at 800th of a second flash duration, guess what? You know your settings are working against you to freeze that subject, right? Water droplets, you're going to want to have like 3,000th of a second to freeze that. If your flash isn't getting there duration-wise, you can do things like lower the power of my strobe, open up my aperture, raise my ISO. Anything I can do to lower the power of my strobe to shorten that flash duration and still get the exposure I want will give me the flash duration I need to freeze the action I'm trying to shoot. That's a massive thing. Deal. Ooh, that would have been a good quote until I messed it up. If you watch this, for the Adorama Special Effects Workshop, you know, back in 2021, if you watch my back pocket, there's always a light meter in there because I was working with 46 strobes and all sorts of constant light in a changing, look right there, right here. There's my light meter right there. Boom. What? No, come on, Seth, back up. Where's the light meter? That's an 858 in my back. There it is with the white dot on it right there. You can see it right there because I'm not playing games. I'm not going to sit there and TTL and figure out whatever. I'm going to meter what I'm trying to get to, then take a test shot and work from there. And that way I know exactly where everything's at. In fact, it lets me set all my sets to certain settings, which means that I have 5 sets running. Well, now I can, in theory, work it multiple strobes to get to a place where no one has to change their settings all night, really, you know? So that's a big difference. And then the last thing I'll go into is the 858. You get things like a spot meter. See this right here? It's basically a scope. So if I'm shooting, I can spot meter off of someone's face rather than the entire environment. Or let's say, for example, I was doing a shoot one time and there was a sign inside the frame that was just bouncing light like crazy. So I was just doing spot metering on it at different angles to see what angle would really drop it down enough to where it wasn't a problem. And it gave me an idea of where I could stand to shoot or where I could set lights to shoot. So there's so much more. It'll give you graphs. It'll give you, some of them have over here, you see that gray square at the bottom over here? That's an actual radio transmitter to fire certain lights. You would actually get the module based on the brand lighting you own or using. And instead of you need to take the remote anywhere, which isn't that big of a deal, you could fire the strobe from your light meter itself. It becomes the trigger while it's metering. It's just one easy step. It's definitely a really good add-on. So while light meters might seem like, I don't know, they're a few $100s, you probably spent more money on low-end lenses than you would on a light meter. It's a great idea to get a light meter to, 1, sharpen up your skills, 2, understand what light is doing more, 3, be more accurate, 4, don't guess. You understand what you're doing. 5, if I were to do a test shoot in here, I would light meter it so that when I go somewhere else with that setup, or if the setup back here, I know right away how to set it back up with the light meter. It's a measuring tool. You know what I'm saying? So, you know, when you learn how to use it is when it becomes amazing. If it's something that you don't pull out a lot and you don't learn how to really use and optimize for your workflow, it's going to be one of those things that sits in your bag forever, you know? So do yourself a favor and think about what would you really want your light meter to tell you. If you only want exposure, you can save some money and do the 308 and it's around $250. But if you say, you know what, I'm really going to want to know more information like flash duration or my ambient to flash ratio, like the percentage of flash to me is one of the most invaluable things ever that a light meter could tell me. And that is in the higher end models. So that's a little under $400. And you can always, if you really feel like it, sell your light meter off if you don't feel like you're using it. You know what I mean? They don't really go down in value too much because there's not that much to really wear and tear on them, you know? Older light meters though, really old light meters, be wary because again, the light sensitive part of it can be dulling out and dimming. So the mechanical ones that look cool and vintage, they're usually not that accurate because they've been around for 40 years and the silver cell diodes in there are worn out and they're not reading light the same way they used to. So all you fedora kids with your handlebar mustaches that like to look all steampunk, be careful buying those light meters and wondering, why is this thing always off, you know? Explain reflected meters versus incident meters. Okay, so reflected meters versus incident meters. Inside your camera is a reflected meter. Metering, wow. Inside your camera is a reflected meter, meaning it is metering the light that is reflected off a subject coming at the camera. A incident meter is a meter that is measuring the light falling on the subject. So you're either going to get the meter coming from what it's thinking the exposure is falling on the subject, or you're going to get an exposure which in most cases the incident meter is more accurate, but because your camera is trying to read a light reading that will get it to based on 18% gray, right? So for example, if I was shooting a white wall and I took my camera and I took a photo and did exactly what it told me to exposure wise, it still wouldn't be pitch white. It would be a little bit gray because it's trying to get you to a neutral average point. But if I took an incident meter and I metered it, it could get me to a white wall. Or the fact that an incident meter can let you do more of a zone metering system is a big difference as well. Meaning, if you guys ever watched any of my white background videos, I'll meter the wall, I'll meter the back of my subject, and if they're about a stop difference, I'm good. You know, so incident is the light that's falling on a subject. Reflective metering is the light reflecting off your subject to the camera, okay? And more often than not, the incident metering is more accurate than, ironically, is more accurate than reflective, believe it or not. Cool, all right. Because don't forget, there's other things that happen, like how much light your lens might be losing or whatever. You know, there's all sorts of things. Not all lenses shoot the same. If you took every brand lens at like f2 and you showed the same exact chart that you shot, some brands are gonna shoot darker, some brands are gonna shoot brighter. F-stop is theoretical. That's why in cinema lenses, T-stops actually measures the light transmission. That's the actual light that's coming through the lens. Why we don't use T-stops, I'll never know. I think they don't want to retrain a marketplace, to be honest with you. But yeah. All right, this chat has frozen. Are you guys still with me? Is this boring? We just went down the most ridiculous rabbit hole ever of anything. Okay. What is the next question? Trying to keep it moving, guys. I'm sorry. Trying to keep it moving here. Oh my God, the question sticker just expired and now I have to go into my archives and find it. Sorry. Still here. Is all this helpful? Does any of this make sense? Francisco, is that you, Francisco? Like is that you, Francisco? You know who I'm talking about. Is that you? Oh, is this video still playing? Cool. All right, the meter explanation, cool. Wow. So apparently 12 years ago today, you guys have got to see this. You're going to get a kick out of this. I took a picture of my fake teeth collection. I'm not even making this up. This is all prop stuff that I had apparently a long time ago. Instagram has decided to show me. So isn't it, you're going to think it's weird, but I had them in a Ziploc bag forever and it was just kind of gross. So I put them in a glass jar and I didn't think about it because my place is full of special effects, props and junk and everything. So on a shelf, like on top of a cabinet, I just always had a jar of teeth. And then people would come by and be like, is that a jar of teeth? And I'd be like, yeah, it's a jar of teeth. What about it? What about it? What, you don't ever need teeth? You don't ever need a jar of teeth? So apparently August 25th, 2013, I had a big pile of teeth to take a picture of. And I bought them at a flea market, just to let you guys know. Like that's what my life used to be, all right? So, yeah. Yeah. Actually, I'm gonna put this on my story right now, because why not? Oh, man. I'm gonna put it on my story right now. You're watching it in real time. Cool. Awesome. I'm glad you guys don't find this boring. I feel like, listen, this stream, this series, has to be anything and everything. That's the point of it. It's not rehearsed, it's not scripted, it's not polished, just like you guys aren't. Just like where you're at isn't polished or scripted. Just like when you go to a job or you're a hobbyist trying to figure something out. You're in the same boat, right? All right, let me see. Okay, so that was 2 questions we asked. So Studio 81 is asking, are you going to be at WPPI 2026? Your seminar was one of my favorites. Oh, thank you so much. So WPPI is the Wedding Portrait and Photography International Trade Show. I did the demo there in Vegas. It was probably one of the best demos I ever did that was probably one of my best. I got to tell you, that felt strong. And it was on a tiny little stage with a podium taking up half of the stage, but we made it work. Edgar, if you're in the chat, Am I going to be at WPI 2026? I was not planning on it, but they have formally invited me to do a class, and that is an honor in this industry to be asked to do a class rather than apply. And therefore, I accepted. So I will be doing a class at WPI, and I will be doing a class at Imaging USA. So 2026, those are the two trade shows I'm going to be at on a platform class. I'm going to be repeating a bunch of stuff I've done. So if you've been to my classes in the past, you don't got to feel obligated to come. But, you know, it's always different, but also the same. So it's like, I don't know. Yeah. All right. Not boring newbie. Okay. Here we go. So, Imaging USA 2026, WPI 2026. I'll be at both of those. Brooklyn reflectors will be handed out to people who want them. Make sure you stop by the Adorama booth. And I'm sure since I'm there, I'll be doing floor demos for Adorama and whoever else I can grab a job from. Okay. Cheryl has another question. Cheryl, are you in here? I feel like I'm going down a rabbit hole for you. I don't know if you're in here. If you're watching on playback, please leave a comment. All right. All right. Sorry, guys. Man. You know, before I go into Cheryl, Dan Arango, longtime channel member here. I did a shoot recently with a Z8 and a number of images ended up with moire pattern on the fabric. Haven't run into that in a while. Any advice for dealing with that on set? Yeah, so we answered this, I think last live stream. If you guys don't know, as you get higher res in resolution, you can start to run into high frequency, small detail patterns getting a moire in your images. Have you guys ever looked at an image on your phone or on Lightroom and it's like maybe somebody's shirt and it's super busy and it has like a moire, and then you zoom in and all of a sudden it clears up because the moire is not really there. However, if you're shooting at high enough resolution, you could catch you could catch a stray. You could catch a what do you call it? A moire pattern showing up. The reason it's showing up is because there's such edge contrast happening at such a high frequency detail. This is not a fix, but it is something I go to right away if it's possible. I throw on some sort of softening filter like a black mist filter, maybe 1/8, nothing crazy, a 16th and 1/8, right? And what that's going to do is it's going to soften up the edge contrast on things, and it might get you out of jail a little bit with the frequency coming up with a moire pattern. So that's kind of, it kind of sucks. Like, it's not a guarantee, and sometimes it's just going to happen anyway. However, it's also a phenomenon that you really don't know when it's going to show up. I will say I have worked jobs where wardrobe, or I don't want to say casting, I guess art direction, would basically tell the rest of the crew block color only, or, you know, stay away from patterns, or like if I had to shoot somebody wearing ties, they would make sure that they're basically monotone, things like that, to minimize that effect that could happen, because we were going into it already knowing we were shooting high resolution. So if I'm shooting 100 megapixels, right there, my chances of getting moire pattern skyrockets, right? If I'm shooting 50 megapixels, your chances of moire pattern happening skyrockets. If I'm shooting 24, I can get out of that. This is also why there were camera options a few years ago, like the D800 came out, and there was a D800 and a D800E, and one of them had an AA filter and the other one didn't. So you had you had either less detail at that resolution, or you had all the detail, but you could risk moire patterns. People that aren't shooting high frequency things, like tiny micro patterns, didn't care about the moire, so they got the detail version of that camera, and you know, they shot. So, and they got everything they wanted out of it. For me, I would rather be able to get everything I can out of the sensor and mitigate it at the time of the lens, because I can always choose that to have it on or off, you know what I mean? Yeah, so Oh boy, there are so many questions coming up now. Now you guys got questions. Ramon's asking, can you hit us with a quick and dirty pure white background setup? Can I get away with just one strobe on the backdrop? Yes, you can. How far should be sitting subject from the backdrop? So I did 3 videos on this, I got to tell you, and we've only got a few more minutes going on here. Here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to give you a video in the chat that I did so you guys can check that out. I hate to send you anywhere, but our PPA Seth White. That's going to yield something, I'm sure. Our PPA Seth White. Okay, so I'm going to give you this in the chat. You can watch this at your own leisure. Okay, is that fair? Who asked this? Ramon, is that fair, Ramon? Because I'd rather take time on explaining a white background than not. And also, I'm pretty sure there is a video on my channel about white backgrounds that I did a million years ago that you could do with a softbox. Feel like it was probably a live stream the more I think about it. Whatever. Is this it? I don't know. Oh, you know what? Here's a light meter video I did. You guys can have that. Light meter video. So if you guys want an old video of Seth talking about light meters, you got it right there. And let me see if there's, I feel like I probably did this white background video live. I did quick white softbox background. Wow. 5 years ago. Practically brand new, guys. So there's that. And I did that with Sheila. So there you go. White backgrounds, there's an infinite ways to do them. But there's things to look for the way you want it to look. And there's different styles of the way you want it to look. Whether you want the light to affect your subject, whether you don't, things like that. Yeah. So, wow. You guys are coming alive already. Here we go. Yeah, Brad, so anti-aliasing filter helps with moire, but you do sacrifice detail, and that's on the camera sensor. So it's kind of like you're married to it no matter what you do, you know? The fabric was single tone, but I had a ton of thread detail. Yeah, so what's actually happening when you have thread detail and it's monotone, it's causing micro shadows and sheen that is conflicting with itself to make this micro contrast. What you're trying to do is soften down that micro contrast. Try a black mist filter. Black mist filters, ND filters, circular polarizers, these are all filters you should have in your bag and just forget about them until you need them. They should just always be in there. And if you want, instead of buying 10 of the sizes of the same filter, buy the filter for the biggest lens you have. So, you know, I try to stick around 82 millimeters or something like that usually. And then I get step rings to go backwards. So an 82 millimeter filter can still fit on a 72 millimeter lens because I have a little adapter that cost me $3. Okay. So buy your filter for your biggest lens, buy stepping rings to go down, and always remember to have softening filters, you know, some sort of diffusion filter, black mist, pro mist. Always remember ND, circular polarizers. All those things will get you out of jail on some things that you didn't even realize was going to come up in your shoot. Okay. So think about that, but don't kill yourself buying 5 of the same filter in different sizes. Buy it in one size and save the money with the step ring. Okay. All right. Okay. Does the right speed of your CF card matter when shooting? Absolutely. So that's the maximum your card can hit, which means that if you're shooting, let's say, higher res images at a fast frame rate, your bottleneck is going to be that memory card if your camera's buffer isn't, right? So let's say you're shooting 20 frames a second at high resolution. If your memory card can write it faster before it turns into a bottleneck, you might get 100 images on that card instead of it stopping at 20 on a slower card. So write speed is absolutely detrimental. I have a Konica Minolta 4. Do you think I can rely on it? Well, your best bet is to test your light meter, right? So shoot it, and do it on a gray card or a digital target or a chipboard, and really see if you feel like it's underexposing or overexposing. Odds are it's probably fine, but it could be a little less sensitive over time. I don't know how old they are. That does sound a little bit up there in age. So what I would do is do your test on something that's a consistent tonality, okay? And see what you get as far as the exposure on the meter versus the exposure in your camera, okay? Whew, man, hold on, guys. I need water. And I'm gonna have to sit in a minute. I'm sorry, guys. This ankle, the muscles in my leg haven't been used in a couple weeks, and they start getting like tired in my ankle. So sorry, I'm just gonna sit for a minute while we figure out the rest of these questions. All right, does that answer anything? So with the R5, 45 megapixels, but the AA filter, how much detail do you think I'm losing? I have no idea. I mean, it's not all AA filters are the same. Not all sensors are the same. Not all raw interpretations in every camera is the same. Not all glass resolves resolution the same. So it's all, either way, it's something in front of your sensor inhibiting detail to some level. It might be micro. It might be enough to just take down moire, but if you're really looking for something out of your camera and it's not there, you know, it affects that. About moire, I run into that a couple years ago on one cosplay. I had no idea what it was, learned something new. Yeah, moire is a weird thing, but how many times have you seen it on an image when you're all the way zoomed out, but then when you zoom in on your software or in your camera and you stop seeing it? That's because the resolution is maxing when the pixels get shrunk down and you're maxing out as it gets tighter and smaller because you're zooming out. Then when you zoom in, the detail's just sitting there for you. You know, so sometimes it might not be in the file, it might be in what you're viewing the file on or with. Does that make sense to you guys? My ankle is feeling stiff as hell, but that just tells me it's healing. I'm hoping in another week I'll be pretty good. I just don't want to push it right now because every day I get set back another day, I'm going to lose my mind. Yeah. Why would you? Okay, so someone in the chat's randomly saying buy a 5 DSR. Okay, what is that an answer to? Who are you? Why should they buy a 5 DSR, not an infinite number of different cameras or a system that they're actually in? Don't ever listen to anyone that just says buy this. There's never a buy this solution to anything. There is, here are the options. What type of photographer are you? What are you doing? What are you shooting with? What do you like to shoot with? What workflow do you like? What style are you looking for? What is your budget? What is relevant to you? Because what if you're someone that says, hey, I want high res, but I want the camera to also shoot really good video? Well, why would I buy an older DSLR that's not made anymore that probably isn't serviceable when you can get a more modern camera for close to the same price that'll give you hybrid features and will be supported by the brand for anything like repairs or warranty or things like that? So anyone that hops in this chat and just says, buy this, and keep in mind, this is a retailer, and I'm telling you, don't just go buy this. I want you guys to make better decisions so you're here tomorrow, you're here next week, you're here next year, and you're somewhere above where you were now, okay? That's the goal here. The goal is to make sure you guys stay shooting, stay psyched on what you're shooting, how you're shooting, making you want to pick up that camera, okay? Any thoughts on mixing LEDs and strobes? I've been thinking about using LED for hair lights and color. Okay, so what you have to realize is when you're mixing constant lights and strobes, you're always at the mercy of your lowest powered light. So think of it this way. Your strobe can cancel out all the ambient light. We shoot in LED lights. This is all LED lights, right? Well, when we shoot in here, we're shooting at f8, usually f8 at ISO 100, right? So now if I want to bring in a constant light to make a difference in the image, I have to start mitigating these constant lights also, along with the constant light that would be affecting my subject, right? So you're always at the mercy of your lowest power light. Can you do it? Absolutely. Is it common? Absolutely. Are there trade-offs? Absolutely. Okay. So it's not to say you shouldn't. Just be aware that you're going to be shooting maybe wider apertures than you're used to or that you want to. You might be dealing with infiltration of other ambient light. If the constant light is closer to the subject than these, you might get a bit of a more of an advantage as far as the light that's closer to your subject making an impact in your shot rather than what's going on up here, right? So there's that. So you just have to be aware of what the properties are of what you're shooting with equipment-wise and not fighting against it. Does that make sense? And also, don't forget, all LEDs, they're not created equal. Some are better color. Some have flicker rates. Some are higher output. Some run cooler physically, you know, and you know, you just got to kind of keep that in mind when you're throwing constant lights in the mix. Ab Cisse just did an amazing video. Let's pull up Ab Cisse. He is hands down one of my favorite and one of the best technicians in this industry, without a doubt. I love this guy. LED versus flash, I think. Is that what it was? Where is it? Maybe it was flash versus LED. Flash. Man, I am not feeling right. He just did this video. Okay, let me go to Adorama TV. It's probably sitting there as one of the first videos. Come on, Ab, where are you? You just did this video, man. Here we go. Ab Cisse LED versus strobes. This might give you a little bit more insight into, I'll put in the chat really quick. If you guys do not know Ab Cisse, you should be subscribed to the main channel and you should be watching every video Ab Cisse does. This is not only one of my favorite people, but he's an incredible photographer, incredible educator, one of the best real photography technicians, lighting technicians in this industry, period. And I'm so happy he's on our channel, and I'm so happy he's talking about all these crazy things that other people don't talk about. So do yourself a favor, check out that video, leave him a link, drop him a comment. He reads every comment. I know this for a fact. He lives for those comments. So make sure you say what's up. Thanks, Brad. I appreciate you, man. Thank you so much. Listen, you guys are my favorite. I wouldn't be killing myself every week for you guys if I didn't believe in this, okay? So, man, I don't know what I just hit, but that just hit pretty good. Yeah, so I hope that helped out with that. Let me see. It's okay, crosstalk. I just get really bent out of shape when people think that the answer to something is just buying this. Like there's no, it's never, all right? When using a large filter with step rings, a lens hood doesn't fit. I sometimes make a hood from cinefoil. Any better suggestions? When you say it doesn't fit, do you mean that you're seeing a vignette or some kind? It shouldn't affect it because, wait, are you putting on the lens hood first and then putting on the filter? Is that what you mean? Like, there's very few lenses I find that that's an issue for. If you put on the lens hood, you should have access to the threads. Oh, I see what you're saying. The step ring. The step ring makes it physically larger. Is that what you're saying? What you could do is you could look for a screw-on lens hood. You also could just not use a lens hood for those shots. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's not the craziest thing. Using cinefoil for a lens hood is a pretty good idea, honestly. I've seen people use black construction paper, you know? But a lens hood really is just something that stays out of the view of the lens to just shade light coming from other angles into the glass or across the glass. So, I don't know. People yell at me all the time because I don't care about lens hoods. I actually like when the light looks organic by hitting the lens a little weird, but I get it. I've also seen people go after Joe McNally for not having a lens hood for 5 seconds and they just freak out on him. I'm like, I couldn't live like this. I couldn't live like this. Okay. I just watched one of his videos and one from Gavin Hoey before my dance shoot in which we needed to use rear curtain sync for motion. Rear curtain sync is what's up. You can also check out on my channel, there's 2 old live demos of shutter drag, and you could check that out. I don't know. Yeah, sorry, Peter. I didn't think about the stepping ring. I'm sorry. Yeah. And don't forget that sometimes the stepping ring can act as a lens hood because it's off the lens, it's wider than the lens, and it's got a little bit of a flag to it. So you could do that. Another thing you can do is just black gaff tape. You could just take, you can just take some 2-inch tape. You can take your camera of your choice. And there's a trick to this though. 2 inches is the smallest I would use. 3 inches more ideal, and I'll show you why. If you use 3-inch tape, when you do this, you can fold it. You can put it around, but you can also fold this in so that the white interior doesn't reflect light, and you get black over the black. You know, so you can kind of make like a, let me show you. What you do is you fold it 1/3 over, and then the inside of your new makeshift lens hood is black, right? So now that it's black instead of white that can reflect light back up. Or hey, maybe it'll give you some weird effect that you like, who knows? And then you can just tape it around and you've got yourself a makeshift lens hood for the moment. So gaff tape. What's really cool though is gaff tape that is white on the inside. You know what it works really good for? Bounce for a strobe. Yeah, dude. If you have real fat gaff tape, I'm talking 3-inch, I'm talking, or you can double up, you know, you can take 2-inch and tape another 2-inch on top and you got 4, you know, 3 and some change. But you can take it on a strobe and you can, I would do it like this. And if my gaff tape's out to here and it's got a white interior, it's flagged, but bouncing back down. So it's like a bounce card on your speed light. So if you ever needed something to bounce off of on a speed light really quick, fat roll of gaff, man. White on the glue side, it'll bounce it. It might warm up your strobe a little bit, but it might bounce your strobe, it might warm up your strobe a little bit, but it's cool, it works, you know? Yeah. No, I appreciate you, Heidi. I really appreciate it. I always wonder whether I should use a lens hood or not. So let's talk about that for a second. So lens hoods are never a bad idea, but I will say modern lenses, whew, they are hard to flare accidentally. To a point where I'm like, you know, I have a bunch of 1.2 lenses that have these lens hoods that are the size of the lens. I don't want to travel with more footprint in my bag than I need to. So a lot of times I don't take it, especially if I'm shooting in a controlled situation like a studio. I'm controlling it anyway, right? So I don't want to take this expensive piece of plastic that they give you with these expensive lenses and that I'm not going to use anyway. So yeah, 1.2 aperture, I'm risking a lot of lens flare if it even happens, but I kind of don't care. I kind of like my light to be a little non-clinical, you know, a little flary sometimes. But if you're someone that's worried about something like that and you don't like that and you want super crisp all the time, there's no harm in putting a lens hood on. One thing that I think people need to ease up on is when you see someone out there and they're shooting with their lens hood backwards, what are they gonna do? Put it in their pocket if they don't feel like using it? You know, like, it's their shot, let them do whatever. Having a lens hood backwards doesn't say to me, oh, they don't know what they're doing. It just says, oh, they pulled out their camera a little quick, or they're not that concerned with the lens hood. People that jump down other people's throats over dumb things like that, it's not like someone could get hurt from a lens hood being on a lens backwards. Like someone could get hurt from a C-stand being set wrong, you know? So just ease up on each other a little bit, all right? Well, this gaff tape's junk now, that sucks. I hate wasting gaff tape. I don't know if it's like a thing from my old PA days. Like, oh, gaff is so expensive and you save every piece you can. It's crazy. So hard to flare. I find most of my light looks washed out when it's hitting in the lens rather than a flare. Well, it depends on your coatings. It depends on what lens, what type of lens. There's a whole bunch of stuff. I mean, the reality is a third-party lens has different coatings than native lenses, meaning, so for example, I used a Tamron lens on something and it looked greener to me based on the white balance I always shoot at rather than auto. When I was at auto, it was fine. But based on the white balance, I always shoot at 5000K with the way I like things. Well, 5000K with a third-party lens read a little greener, but doesn't mean it was wrong. It's just a different coating, which means you just have to adjust for the tool you're using. That's all, you know? Hey, Ab, I just gave you the massivest of shout outs ever. And we were just talking about light meters, man. So, any suggestions for some nice painterly backdrops, something that won't hurt the wallet? I got news for you. You're gonna be hurting the wallet if you want a hand-painted backdrop, but you're gonna have that backdrop forever if you treat it well. Gravity backdrops make some really beautiful stuff. I know Ab uses them. If you want, Oliphant is another one. But if you're looking for something that kind of like mimics it, these over here aren't a bad choice. They're vintage backdrops from Manfrotto Avenger or whatever. And actually, they're not going to open up unless I open them all the way. I tell you what, you can, hang on. I got you. Hang on. I got you. If you want something that's not hand painted, right? If you want something that, here, look, Ab, real proof. I gave them your strobe versus LED video. See, there's proof, man. I was shouting you out. So if we go into, I think, glow vintage backdrop, I think something like that. Yeah. So you can get these like rusty wall collapsibles, and don't forget these are going to be out of focus or, you know, soft focus, but you can get, you know, all different types of stuff that's pretty low cost, right? Are you guys seeing this? Okay. But I know also that if you're the ones I use at my studio, if I have to, which I don't always use painted backdrops. It's never been like in my style there, but backdrop. Let me see. You also have these, which go significantly up in price. So you went from $60 to $300, but you have these options, okay? So I will put this in the chat for you to check out the glow version. And I will put, man, I'm losing my train of thought. I feel like, so guys, we were on the 25th episode of this, and I got to tell you, I just feel like I constantly come up, like, I'm always saying like, man, I'm in rough shape today. Like, I feel like I say that most of these shows, most of these streams. We're on the 25th week of these, man. Kristen, can you explain how depth of field changes with different focal lengths? Like I'm shooting at 16 millimeter as opposed to 200 millimeter at 2.8. Well, what's really happening is where you're positioned, right? So, oh boy. When you're shooting at 16 millimeters, you're stepping in closer. The lenses are not as shallow as they get wider, right? And so when you're, let me see if I can do this. Let's see if I can do a quick live. Basically, the wider the lens, the less shallow it'll look as opposed to a longer lens. And you'll even see a difference. Like there's a 35 millimeter 1.2 that starts looking shallow to me, but it's very rare to have a lens that wide to be that shallow as well. Like you don't see 14 millimeter 1.4 that often. There's one that exists, but it's big and it's, you know, for that. So let me go into live view here and see if I can get something going. Oh, it would help if I turn the camera on, right? Crazy idea, right? Let me take it off of that. All right, so I am at, what am I at? Okay, I am at F4, right? So I got my Windex bottle here And I will switch us over to that. Okay, so you guys are seeing through my camera. This is 24 millimeters at f4, right? But I am maybe a foot away from this Windex bottle. If I step back and I zoom in to the same frame, you see how much more the compression of the, and we say compression, but it's really where I'm standing. Because the reality is, if I were to step back, you start seeing that background more in focus as opposed to here. The ratio of me stretching out the lens to me being closer exaggerates this characteristic. If I go back to 24, right? If I step back and I zoom in to that same frame, you see how it's similar? If I step back in, see how it's similar? It's not more shallow, but if I do this, now look how shallow it is. So if this is my frame at, where am I? Oh man, my back just messed up. So if my back, wow. So if I'm at 24 here, and this is my frame, the whole bottle's in frame, right? You can tell, you can see that Nikon sign right there and everything, and I'll even put in the background. You can read that, right? But if I step back and I punch in, now look how much difference that becomes, right? Same frame because it's still in there, but because the focal length is quote unquote compressing that background, which it really isn't, it's just based on where I'm standing. David Bergman has an amazing video on this. And then if I were to zoom back out and do the same frame, you can see that's more legible, right? See the difference? So what you're doing is you're exaggerating the characteristics of the lens, which would be the depth of field. Does that kind of make sense? You could, in theory, actually, I got the, let's do that. Let's go back to, let's go into Adorama, David Bergman, depth of field. Oh no, I know what it is. Focal length myth, focal length myth. Okay, so this is the legend himself. I'll put this in the chat. You can check this out. This is 2 minutes long, this video, but look how close he's shooting. And when he keeps the, this isn't based on depth of field, but he's going to show you how like her face doesn't actually change based on the different focal lengths. It's based on where he's standing with that focal length. Okay, so she's really warped out here with a wide angle. But then when he shoots the same thing by backing up, oh my God, Dave, just do it. So this is all the focal lengths. Can you see her face doesn't change? It's just you're losing where she is in the image because of resolution. But look at this, watch. Her face doesn't change now. Why is that? Because of where he's standing, not the lens itself, right? Depth of field can change because you're physically getting closer or farther and your space compresses and decompresses technically, but not really. This is probably the worst way to explain it. But basically, the closer you are to a subject, the shallower your image can look. So if you have a lens that doesn't open up to like 1 point whatever, but you still want a shallower type look, this was f4 that I just showed you, but it looked pretty shallow, didn't it? Because we got so close to our subject. But f4 from back there, not so much. And then if you're changing your focal length based because of your distance, that's when we start seeing that change as well. Does that make sense? I feel like I just kind of talked you into a circle here. I'm sorry, Kristen. I know we're better than this, I know. 16 millimeter as opposed to 200 millimeter at 2.8. It's really based on your positioning. It really is. And a 16 millimeter lens, you're going to be getting so much closer to your subject. I always thought you said you were in rough shape because you've been going 100 miles an hour all weekend. Yeah, I wish. I'm usually trying to heal on a weekend and trying to make the rent on that, you know? Like I got a studio in Midtown, I got to make the rent on here, kids. All right? You guys went silent on me. Was that too crazy? So let me do that really quick again, okay? So if I go to the tether, right, and we go into our camera, I'll do a live view, and when you're looking at, I know I'm making you guys seasick. I know, look at this amazing subject we got of a Windex bottle. I know. So that's That's a Windex bottle in frame top to bottom, right? At 24 at f4, right? Focus on it. You can actually make out what that background is, right? If I step back and I'm at 24, but now I punch in to 120, you see how much more that space gets compressed to the Windex? And that's what's exaggerating the depth of field. Because if I walk in slow, as I focus, you start seeing, is it night and day difference? No, but it is a big difference as far as what my depth of field looks like. See how much more soft that gets? Now I walk in closer, I step back, and I'm focusing the whole time, right? You can physically see how the background becomes more coherent as I get wider and get closer to subject, right? I only see a bottle. I'm trying to use the mouse on my laptop. That is the dumbest thing ever. Okay, does that make sense? It's really a lot to do with your positioning. Yeah, that's smart. Let's mention other retailers in this chat. Jesus Christ. Really helping out this channel, buddy. Thanks. I don't even know if Kristen's still in this chat. But so a lot of times when you're trying to fake a shallower depth of field, it's really about your positioning. And that's why when you guys see me do the lens videos, I always bring up the minimum focusing distance, because like this lens that you guys see me like so much, 24 to 120, but at 120, I can focus at under a foot. I can focus at like 8 inches to my subject. Give or take, I don't know what the actual spec is. Being able to be that stretched out and that close is what gives me that shallow look. If this lens said, no, you can only focus 3 feet away. 3 feet away at 120 is a big difference from less than a foot away. That's a massive difference, you know? I don't know if this is helping anybody. What time is it? Oh man. Okay, last call for questions. Last call, guys, last call. Wow, I pulled out lights for nothing today, huh? Ugh. You guys with me? We're gone, we're out of here. What is this? Yeah, dolly zoom. Well, that's also one of the cool things. So I don't know if you guys know this, but a lot of the Nikon Z series has high-res zoom built into it. Some of the brands have it. I'm not sure what they call it, but it basically makes every lens parafocal, which is being able to zoom or zoom out in and out without losing focus, because it's cropping from 8K to 4K basically and giving you a 4K video. It's pretty cool. It's pretty cool. So, yeah. Well, yeah, I mean, obviously, if this was a 1.2 lens and not an f4 lens, there'd be a big difference, right? Like this lens right here is 1.8. If I switch to this camera, this lens is a 1.8 lens, and you can see how quickly that background just gets obliterated, just completely obliterated. Look at that. It's obliterated, guys, right? So it's like, and this isn't the lens actually. This is a 35 millimeter, which is kind of wide. But when you guys watch Coffee with Creators, the lens I use is a 50 millimeter. Just a straight 51.8. Looks pretty good to me. Looks pretty good to me. All right. Wow, it's so sweaty in here. If you don't change position or aperture and only change focal length, then you basically just magnify the image. You also magnify the sharpness and hence decrease the depth of field. So it's not that you're magnifying, you're also, when you're staying in the same position, you're still giving the effect of compressive space. So yes, a zoom is changing your field of view, but it is changing a compressive space as well. So, and that's because the lens actually is physically getting closer. The elements of the lens are still physically getting closer by that much. That much is still a distance that the glass has moved, which means you basically moved anyway. And any lens is going to move. Even if it's internal focus, you're just not seeing the physical travel. It's inside that tube. But that is basically you moving. That's just, it's the same idea of you physically moving. It may only be a few inches, but that is a movement, and that will affect what that lens is giving you. All right. All right. Listen, Wednesday, I'm going to be live with Coffee with Creators with Nancy Berwick. Really amazing photographer, incredible, impactful images, really great storyteller. Really high-end accolades out there, credentials and such. Very cool to have her on here. Let's make sure we show up and be welcome for her. I'm gonna stick to 11 o'clock a.m. here for these streams. I think that's easier, right? That way you know 11 o'clock we're live or 5 o'clock we're live, either on this channel or the main channel, right? Let's try to grow this channel out. Let's try to get this channel up. If you haven't already, check out the trailer that launched on this channel and leave a comment. Let us know what your favorite demos have been. Let us know what you've gotten out of this channel, what has worked for you, why you stick around. I'm trying to treat that comment section of the trailer like a testimonial. And make no mistake, what you guys are put in there is being seen by the brands, being seen by the company here at Adorama, and they're looking at what impact all of this is having. So there's your chance to sound off right there in that comment section of the trailer. What's up, kid? And I'd appreciate it if you guys just let us know what's been helpful, what's been some of your favorites. Sometimes you need to remind people it's not about having the largest channel, it's about having the most connection and impact. And I think that's what this channel does. 2 years of free classes from the most hard-hitting photographers in this industry, right? So Vanessa Joy did an amazing business class in here, Joe Sinnott. That's just been released on this channel as a compilation. You can watch that together. You get yourself an idea of how to price, what to really worry about, what to think about when you're trying to do this for a living and stuff like that. Man, it's sweaty in here. So if you're new here, hit subscribe, hit the bell. Make sure you guys are hitting the bell, because since this channel is 90% live, the bell is what's going to tell you when we're live. And you can jump in these chat rooms, ask all the questions you need to ask to whoever you got to ask it to. Thursday, Daniel Norton is back for the, basically how to select your lens for portraits. So Kristen, you might want to stay on that one. And he does it really good. I really like the way, no pun intended, but I really like Daniel's perspective on this topic. Make sure you are staying with what's to come. I got Call for the Creators. Oh, shoot, September 16th. Adorama Critique. Oh, wow, September 16th, Adorama Critique. Me and Daniel looking at your work. That is not streamed. You have to be here in person. So make sure you check out the adorama.com/events, which is this. Boom. Make sure you scan this, go to the critique, follow the instructions, submit. If you're in New York, you got to be here for the critique, okay? I know some of you in this chat were already here for the critique last time. They're only every other 2 months, so if you miss out on this, you're gonna have to wait a couple months. But if you guys keep showing up to them, I'll keep on convincing Daniel to show up for him, and we'll keep on doing them, okay? All right. I think I'm going to leave it there. Thanks, you guys, for sticking with me today. I'm sorry I'm a little jacked up here, but hopefully all that made sense. I feel like that was a lot of junk that just came out of my skull in an unorganized fashion for you. When you do these videos, there's always someone who has something new photographers learn from. No, I would hope you feel it's a safe space for you to go, there is no dumb question here, right? And I hope, the one thing I really hope you guys get out of this isn't just the technical or an answer to a question, but I really hope you guys shape a different way of thinking about things, shape a more sane way, less pressure, understanding like your philosophy shapes your style and vice versa, and just being better to each other when we're gathering in forums. And, not everybody knows everything, myself included. And I hope that you guys just feel like this is as much yours as it is anybody else's, right? So you're always welcome in these seats here. You're always welcome in this chat here. As long as you're being cool. Like, one thing that'll get you kicked out of these chats, and I'm saying this on the record, if you say anything about our talent, our models, or anything malicious to our hosts, or the other way, if you're saying something off color about our hosts, you're not going to stay in this chat, okay? This is an insane resource I wish I had when I was coming up, and I hope you guys take full advantage of it. I hope you guys answer each other in the comments, and I hope you guys join the Discord and talk to each other and share work and all that other stuff. That Discord could use some life in it, so hopefully we can get that going. But other than that, listen, this is here for you, and I'm going to keep it here and keep doing it as long as I can, I appreciate all of you. We cannot do this without you. We cannot do this without you. If I'm talking to nobody, it goes nowhere. I'll say that. So thank you guys for being here with us, and make sure you stick with the next streams that are coming up. Say what's up to Daniel. Check out the Adorama blog. Come to an event. All of you that were at the wedding event, thank you guys so much. So I don't know. I always feel like I always feel like I'm cutting off. Like there's something else I'm missing. But then I realize we're going to be back here next week anyway. Actually, am I going to be here next week? Because I'm actually going to be going out of town. Yeah, I'll be here next week. Okay. But there'll be no Coffee with Creators after this week, and then it returns the following week. So make sure you jump in on that one. And yeah. All right, guys. Be good to each other. Hit subscribe if you're new here. I'll see you on Wednesday for Coffee with Creators with Nancy Borwick. Can't wait for that one. It's going to be friggin' cool, man. And all right. Be good to each other. Enjoy the rest of your week. If you are watching this on playback, the word to leave in the comments, if you made it this far, rainbow cookies. I'm just going to stick with the food theme because I think it's going out pretty good. Rainbow cookies. If you don't appreciate the rainbow I can't help you. I can't help you. Not all of them are created equal. Some of them are terrible. But I got to say, there's nothing better than a really well-made 7-layer rainbow cookie from one of the oldest bakeries in New York. Forget about it. All right. Be good to each other. I'll see you Wednesday and Thursday. Make sure you go check out Daniel's stream from last time where we built the dark room. That was a tough one. It could use some help. Go watch that one. Be good. No, I'm going to be here next Monday. I will be here next Monday. Midweek, I won't be here. Okay? I got to hop on a plane really quick and come back. All right? Hey, Jen, what's going on? All right. Seriously, I got to get out of here. All right. Be good to each other. Enjoy the rest of your week. Leave some comments. Say what's up to Daniel in his comments on the analog stream and on Thursday, and I will see you. Yeah, Labor Day means nothing to me. What am I going to do? Now, I just won't wear white. How's that? Fair? Cool. All right. Later, guys. Peace.